Welcome to Wines We Drink, a podcast for wine lovers and learners. I'm Charlotte Varnum, and together with my counterpart Keith Herndon, we'll be exploring a new wine each week. Keith is a lover of wine, and I'm a learner of wine, and we hope you'll sip along with us. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wines We Drink, our summer podcast where we drink wine and talk about it. I'm Charlotte Varnum, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Keith Herndon, a certified wine sommelier.
Hello, Charlotte, and a hearty greeting to all of our listeners. It's wonderful to be with you today for our 10th episode in Season 5. We're recording today in my wine kitchen, so welcome everyone to my home.
I love that. We have so many wonderful memories of sharing wine here with our friends and families. You and your wife are certainly the consummate hosts for your wine events. But my favorite times in the wine kitchen are right here recording our podcast. And we've made it to Season 5. We've made it to double digits in the episodes. This little show is becoming something special, isn't it?
Indeed it has. I mean, we've won taste awards. We've been on the red carpet in Beverly Hills. It even spawned a book. I mean, would you have thought any of that possible when we launched this thing, right?
I mean, seriously, I think we learned the secret sauce early on, maybe. Talk about great wine. And that's what we've done. We kept it simple, and here we are in Season 5. All of our previous seasons have reflected that. So if you missed any of our shows, you can find them on most of the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We also have a complete episode guide at wineswedrink.com. So now, enough reflection, perhaps. We can turn our attention to today's show. Keith, please tell our audience what we've got planned.
Yeah, I hope that didn't come across as too braggadocious, but, we are building our episodes around our wine book that we did, right? Wine Conversations, Exploring Meaning, Mystery, and Myth. And today we're featuring one of our really, really special interviews in the book.
Absolutely. I was the editor of that book, and I gleaned so much insight from the experts that you interviewed. All 16 of the interviews really brought unique perspectives to the table, and the winemaker we're featuring today has such an interesting story to tell.
Yes, he does. I mean, we're highlighting Benjamin Darnaud, an outstanding French winemaker who essentially established himself through the direct-to-consumer model of a wine club known as Naked Wines. We'll get into more of that background as we go, but let's just establish up front that Benjamin Darnaud is one of Naked Wine's most popular winemakers. I've been a member of that club for many, many years, and I've been ordering his wine from the moment I joined. When we set up the parameters of the book with the publisher, I knew I wanted to include him in the book. I just had to have an interview with him. I
mean, what an amazing connection and story tie back to him. We knew that we wanted to have that French connection, and you immediately knew who to turn to.
His contribution to the book is immense. I mean, he brings not only the insights of a winemaker, but also the business aspects of making wine and, of course, the French perspective of making wine there, but selling most of it internationally in the UK and the US.
Well, this is a good time, too, to remind our listeners here that they can read the entirety of Benjamin Darnaud's interview, along with the interviews of 15 other wine experts by ordering the book Wine Conversations on Amazon or through our local distributor Neighborhood Books. All of the links, all of the materials can be found at wineswedrink.com.
Thanks again for plugging the book, Charlotte. So now let's get into the specifics about which Benjamin Darnaud wine we've selected. I mean, he has so many, okay? I love his rosé, which is sold under the Picnic label, and he has an exceptional Grenache Gris and several reds sourced from grapes in and around Menevois. But for selecting a wine for today's podcast, it really was kind of a no-brainer on which one to go with, the Châteauneuf-du-Pape. It's sold through Naked Wines under the label Chateau Saint-André, which is where he sources the grapes.
And before we get too far into talking about today's wine, can you tell our audience where the term Châteauneuf-du-Pape comes from? Not necessarily a new word to our show, but a fun one to say.
Right. Sure. I'm going to turn to our the folks at Wine Folly. They provide a really succinct, explanation. This is the area in the southern Rhone Valley near Provence. The phrase literally means the Pope's new castle. And that refers back to a time in history, the 1300s, when the seat of the Roman Catholic Church was in Avignon, right? Châteauneuf-du-Pape was the very first French wine appellation when that naming system was created in 1936. And it's now one of the 19 official crus or growths of the Côte-du-Rhône region.
Our loyal listeners may recall that we ended our second season with a silky smooth Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and today's selection is equally delicious. I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, that selection was a 2019 bottle from the Bouquet de Pape, which is now into its fifth generation of family winemakers. I mention that to point out a bit of a contrast in a country like France, where so many of the great winemakers trace their family history in the wine business back many, many generations. Benjamin Darnaud stands out as a first-generation winemaker, right? His family was not in the wine business, and he says he fell into it by accident through an association with a friend whose family was in the business. But in even more of a break from tradition, after studying wine, he didn't get his start in France, but rather in California, in Santa Barbara.
Oh my gosh, wow. Well, and now he's firmly established in southern France, and for that we are grateful. So super fascinating. His wine we're featuring today is an exceptional example of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, do you think?
Yeah, it's absolutely an exceptional example. Today's bottle reflects that nice blend of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre that we expect from this style of wine. I mean, I have bottles of his 2021 and his 2022 vintage here in my cellar. They're both fantastic, but I had to pick one, right? So I slightly favored the 2022 vintage, and that's the one where they're opening today, and I'll explain maybe a little bit why I slightly favor that one.
Yeah, please do.
Well, the 2020 vintage in Châteauneuf-du-Pape rated a bit higher than the 21. 2022 had an early harvest with low yields. The growers had to contend with a significant drought and relatively high heat, but the winemakers said that resulted in wines that are fresh and acidic. The overall profile of the 2020 vintage leans toward red fruit, freshness, balance, and I think we get all of that in Ben's 2022 bottle.
So today's bottle allows us to reflect the best parts of an overall vintage. I like that.
Yeah. So allow me to pour us a couple of glasses. You know, I followed the serving advice you'll find on the Naked Wines website for this wine, and that was to decant it for about an hour and to serve it slightly cooler than normal room temperature. You know, we're in the wine kitchen where I keep the temperature cellar cool, so the chilling part kind of took care of itself.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, great advice. With it in the decanter already, I can see that rich color. It's a purple, red. It's kind of trending towards a garnet, is how I would describe that color. So please go ahead and give us some pours.
Yes, let me do that.
Yeah, look at that.
I think that how you described that was certainly an apt description of its color. The 2022 vintage is still relatively young, so it has retained that youthful red. It will continue to transition to darker hues as it ages in the bottle. You know, I think we've opened today's bottle at a great point in its early evolution, so let's go in for those aromas.
Let's do it. Oh, wow. Very interesting. There's clearly ripe, you were saying youthful, ripe cherry and some spices, but it's not like a cherry pie. Instead of baking spices, it's really more savory spices like thyme and rosemary.
Wow. The red fruit notes, the cherry that you mentioned, along with raspberry, are definitely more pronounced than black fruit. You know, I do get some blackberry notes, but they're secondary.
Yeah,
to this.
I would agree.
Let's have that first sip.
Okay, here we go.
Wow.
Man, those savory spices are certainly front and center. And those red fruits are there too. The ripe cherry, maybe even a hint of strawberry. Those red berry fruits are very much there.
Yeah, those red fruits are pronounced in this bottle, and I'm with you on the spicy notes. So let's have another sip here and now concentrate on the finish of this wine.
Okay. Yeah, I really like that. It's a juicy finish. There's enough acidity there to give it a nice lingering ending, nothing too dry.
Yeah, really, really refreshing. This blending of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre is a wonderful way to create a pleasing, balanced wine. And Ben Darnaud, I mean, has certainly done it with this one. This Châteauneuf-du-Pape is exceptionally. It's just an exceptional example of this type of wine. I mean, normally his naked wines are sold with his name most prominent, but not this one. Here's a brief clip of my interview with Ben where he explains the decision on the labeling for this wine.
It was like we thought that it would be a shame not to keep a bit of the Châteauneuf style of labeling and all that. So we took the name, like we took the name of the estate, basically of the vineyard.
Even for an established winemaker, the region's tradition wins out.
Yeah, for sure. You know, he's telling the story of how he'd been sourcing the grapes from surrounding parcels for over a decade for his Côte de Rhône, while all dreaming of one day being able to source these premium grapes for the Châteauneuf-du-Pape. And here's another clip of Ben talking about that dream.
Honestly, I would never be able to do that with that naked wines, because accessing those sort of grapes is hard. And I was lucky that I work with a vineyard in Châteauneuf. Actually, they're based in Gigondas, but they have about actually quite a big estate in Châteauneuf. We've got about 100 hectares, and I've been working with them for 10 years with naked because I was getting my Côte du Rhône from them.
Ben has this story on the bottle's back label. It recounts how this wine is essentially fulfilling a dream.
Indeed, he has. And this wine checks all of the boxes of a Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So I think it's time we talk about how to pair this wine with some food.
Yeah, Châteauneuf-du-Pape is a remarkably flexible wine with food. It goes nicely with a range of beef dishes and stews, and it's an excellent complement to lamb. But its flavor profile with fruit and spices, allows it to pair with just a variety of dishes. So let's turn to your alter ego, Chef Charlotte, and talk about today's pairing.
You are exactly right about this wine's flexibility. And I think many people default to a hearty meat dish when they think about reds in general, maybe. But we're going to change that up a bit with today's selection, which was inspired actually by the pairing mentioned on the Naked Wines website. The suggestion was to pair this with a lentil and pork stew, a dish posted by Ben Darnaud's wife, Kat. So we're adapting that today to a simple lentil stew without the pork, so a little vegetarian option for everyone out there. But the savory spices in the stew, I think, will still work well with the savory spices in the wine.
Oh, I like this idea. So many times we default to the meat pairing, but a vegetable stew can certainly hold on its own, and I'm ready to go in for a few bites and sips.
Yes.
Smells wonderful.
Good. So I have ladled us some soup into our little bowls here. So let's go in for a bite.
Yes. Okay. This is a rich stew. The flavors of the celery and garlic and onion and thyme. Oh, what a wonderful, savory medley of flavors. So I'm going to have a sip of the wine and have some more of this stew. So let's
enjoy.
Wow. This pairing is, I'm going to say that you take an approach that's like on like.
Right.
The savory flavors of the stew amplify the savory notes of the wine.
Right?
That's
a great observation. Sometimes the best approach is to create contrast, right? Other times the best approach is to match similarities, match what's already present, blending the savory characteristics of this lentil stew and the meatiness that come from lentils along with the savory characteristics of the wine, to me seem to be the best way to go. Lentils also work really nicely here because, again, they provide a great texture and a full-bodiedness that can hold on to those savory spices that we mentioned as being first and foremost. And it's fully vegetarian, so you still get something that feels hearty and substantive that stacks up to the complexity of this red.
Yeah, I mean, once again, Chef Charlotte has achieved an excellent pairing, right?
Well, thank you. And thank you to Kat, really, for the inspiration. So now let's talk about accessing this wine.
Well, first, you'll need to join the club,
Okay.
Naked Wines. It has a unique model in that members are called angels,
Oh.
right? And as an angel, you contribute a set amount each month. It's typically $40 or $50. As those contributions, build up, you use that money to purchase your wine whenever you like. But this model, by contributing the money up front, members are essentially providing the working capital for the winemakers to create these wines. Like I said, it's a unique model, and we'll talk more about Naked Wine in today's Finish, the show's ending segment.
I'm really fascinated by this concept. So once you're a member, as you are, then you can get wines at a relatively decent price.
Oh, correct. Yes. For example, the market value of today's wine is listed at $56.99 per bottle. But my member price was only $29.99,
Wow.
right? I mean, that's just a great discount considering the quality of this wine. It has a 93% favorability rating among more than 1,400 club members who've rated it.
Yeah, it's super interesting. It definitely seems like it pays for those that are interested in supporting these winemakers as well, and you get that nice discount. Interesting. So we're going to take a short break and eat and drink more of this wonderful wine and lentil stew. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to Wines We Drink. This is the portion of the show we call The Finish. Today, Keith is talking more about Benjamin Darnaud's wine business as part of the Naked Wines Club.
Well, Charlotte, I've been fascinated by this business model ever since I joined the club several years ago because of the platform it has provided for winemakers like Benjamin Darnaud to massively expand their business and their reach.
It's super interesting. So with that reach, can you put some numbers behind that? What does that look like for Benjamin?
Well, about a dozen years ago, he struck his first deal with Naked Wines founder Rowan Gormley. That first year, a single bottling of his Mennevois sold 10,000 bottles.
Wow.
Okay? That sounds like a lot, but it's really small,
Okay.
right? This year, with a Naked Wines portfolio of more than 24 wines across 8 different styles, Benjamin Darnaud will sell 1.5 million bottles in the U.S. and the U.K., right? In the U.S. and the U.K. combined, 1.5 million bottles. I mean, that's staggering considered in just a little over a decade, he's gone from 10,000 bottles to 1.5 million.
I mean, it's exponential. And as I recall, he fully credits the Naked Wines platform for providing that opportunity to get in front of people and see that kind of growth.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In his interview for our book, he called it, quote, a precious company, end quote. And when I asked him about what's next for Benjamin Darnaud, his answer was largely about expanding his partnership with Naked Wines to help the company succeed. But I'm just going to say that's far from given in today's wine market.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm going to go to a Harvard Business School case study that was published last summer that explains some of this. So let me quote from this business case study. Quote, for the past 3 years, the company had explicitly prioritized long-term growth over short-term profits. Through the COVID pandemic, the business had doubled in size and the stock price had more than tripled as people consumed more wine at home. But the prospects had changed considerably as the pandemic subsided. During the first half of 2022, demand slowed, wine inventories rose, liquidity tightened, and the firm's stock price plummeted by more than 90%, end quote.
Ouch.
Ouch is a good word. The company has been through it recently. The founder that I mentioned earlier is out. The business has gone through a few management restructuring as it tries to regroup and regain its footing. Part of its problem is that it just has too much inventory of unsold wine. The current management announced earlier this year that it is liquidating more than $30 million in excess inventory. The idea is to unlock that capital and reinvest it in attracting and retaining customers.
Wow. I mean, let's hope that strategy is successful. It would be a shame to lose a platform that I feel is so important to so many winemakers. It
would be a loss for both winemakers and consumers. At the time of our recording, the company's website says it has 867,000 members.
Wow.
Supporting 670 winemakers in 24 countries.
Mm-hmm.
That's some staggering reach, and I'm just hoping they get their business, straightened out. Right?
I mean, 670 winemakers, when you think about the support structure that's provided there and what would happen to them when we're already seeing that decline in wine consumption, it's a massive footprint. And aren't you glad that you're one of those angels then, I guess, that brought today's wine on this show?
I love being an angel, and I love Ben Durno's wines, right? So a lot of the others, as well. I'm going to mention some of the other wine favorites that I have with Naked. We don't have time to mention them all, right? But I will give a shout out to David Marchese, and kudos to you listeners if the Marchese name resonates with you. Yes, he's the husband of Nicole Marchese. We featured Nicole's Farniente Chardonnay in episode 5, right? If you sign up for Naked Wines and try David's wonderful Chardonnay, then you can kind of have a comparison point.
Yeah.
But his wine on Naked has a 95% approval rating. Right?
A little husband versus wife. That's certainly a full circle moment, though. How cool is that? It's all connected. And so very cool. If that speaks to you, go and check it out and see if what your dollars can do to support the wine industry. But could you give our audience a sneak peek into next week's episode?
Well, we're featuring a wonderful red blend from Portugal's Douro River Valley. For me, it's a really special episode because I get to revisit last summer's trip where I went there with my wife, and I get to recount my interview with an absolutely amazing sommelier I met there. She taught me so much about this region. I mean, I owe her such a debt of gratitude. I mean, she made our trip. I mean, her insights. It was just a wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to bringing her, the inspiration from her interview to next week's episode.
Well, what a wonderful journey that we'll all get to go on with you. So that sounds like a plan for next week. We will see you there, listeners. That is the finish for today's episode, though. And again, next week, same time, same place. Until then, cheers.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to Wines We Drink. Listen to our other episodes anywhere you get your podcasts, and be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Wines We Drink, and check out our episode guides at wineswedrink.com. Cheers.